Hey traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you on July 20th from theclosingprint.com with a quick look at the week ahead and a few stocks that I'm watching. Last week we talked about the gold miners and how they were doing well 2 weeks ago, and since that time we had box trades set up that moved to the upside. Now the other thing I'm watching obviously is the bond stock ratio on the S&P weekly chart, as you see here, and the UST ratio to the S&P 500. As long as this moving average and prices continue to move lower, as you can see with this trend line, we are in a bullish setup. Now I've drawn a trend line in here only to show that we could possibly break it, and if we get back above this horizontal line here, possibly we could be moving to the upside. So I'm continuing to watch the UST to SPX, and for the time being we're still in a full-blown bull market. So until we see a crossover like we saw in these areas here where we had substantial moves to the downside, like here in 2011 where we dropped off from 1370 down to 1074, until that happens where we have a move from this low back towards this direction and cross over the moving average, I continue to be very bullish. That said, let's take a look at the gold stocks. Many of the gold charts look very good. This is Almaden, a very cheap stock, but note that we have a trend line here. We broke and now we're changing trend, and we're gradually starting to move to the upside and what we've talked about previously as the markup phase. This is the markdown phase, phase 4. Phase 1 is where we start to base, and then phase 2 is the markup phase where we start to move higher. Now this is also what I call a box trade, where we break trend. When we break trend and the 10-period shorter term moving average moves above the 30, we only take long trades. Over here we were in a downtrend. When the 10-period moving average was down below the 30-period, we'd only go short whenever we would get back into this box zone and we'd get our first red candle. You can see results of that until we start to see a crossover on the moving average. So ABX is a trade we took on Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember exactly. I don't have my brokerage account open currently, but we did post the information about taking ABX as well as Helica Mining, which we sold, and we took Harmony instead after I realized that forward PE on Helica was something like 30 or 40. So I like to keep the PE down below the S&P 500 average, which is currently at around 1594, I believe, the forward PE. So anyway, so ABX looks really good, as well as Inigo Mining. Inigo Eagle Mines look good as well, breaking above previous highs here. I'd like to see more momentum, but we do have MACD well above the zero line, and stochastics has turned back up. So this can continue to make new 52-week highs, so keep that in mind. Again, we fully expect that this could pull back to the 10-period or into this box zone, depending on how strong the stock is. Now remember that the S&P 500 got hit last week, and during that time Inigo continued to move higher. So keep that in mind. Relative strength plays a big part in your trading. Now we have a trend break here as well, moving above these recent highs here at 1687 would be a good sign. Above 1689 would be a buy signal, and then again of course at 1953 would be a new breakout. So we had this move up, we had a consolidation for several months, and then we have a breakout and a crossover of the moving averages on Anglo Gold. Yamana Gold, downtrend, crossover, 10-period above the 30, box trade, first green candle, was an inside day, but the next day continued to move higher. Now we have a little doji spinning top, but MACD is cruising a little bit lower. It's not substantially lower, it's just moving sideways, which shows me that this is some consolidation on this move higher, and now we move sideways. I expect this to move higher depending on what RSI does as well. So stochastics has turned, and it's currently leading possibly a turn in MACD. No guarantees, it's just that that's what I'm looking for. Eldorado Gold, the forward PE on this one is fairly expensive. I think it's at either 35 or 45, I forget which, but we had a box trade, first green candle. After we get in here, we buy, and currently we're well away from the stop, which when we bought this day was the previous day's low, minus 10 or 15 cents. Expect that shares are going to continue to move higher. Stochastics has already turned and leading, so MACD should turn back up as well. Franco-Nevada, same thing, 10 above the 30, RSI bounce, Stochastics leading, and we have MACD yet to turn, but I'm expecting that to happen. We had the box trade set up, we had an inside day, Harami, a major down day, a 3-candle reversal, low, lower low, and a higher low, and now we started to get back above these 2 candles here. Once we get back above that level, I think we have a pretty good shot of Franco-Nevada continuing to move higher. GFI, Goldfield, we had an ascending channel that broke to the downside. We had a crossover and then a quick turn back to the upside, and now we're starting to move higher on GFI. Gold Corp looks pretty good. We had an inside day, Harami, on Wednesday. Had a nice move higher, and we almost took out the Tuesday high. We yet to do that, but we have RSI above 50 and Stochastics leading as well. Rand Gold, similar, held very nicely, moved sideways for the last 3 days, and we have Stochastics leading higher as well. We didn't get a lot of negative momentum, so we're having a consolidation on a flag basically on Rand Gold. Goro, we talked about this one on Friday. It didn't do what we thought it would do. It actually held, hammered again, right at the area between the 10 and the 30, and this trend line where we flagged here, and we tried to break above that on Friday but failed. So let's look for more upside on Goro this week. Stochastics moved back up, and MACD could follow if we saw some volume. Hecla Mining, remember this one had a fairly high PE, forward PE, so we decided to sell this one on Thursday, and turns out to be not a bad idea, as Friday we're a little bit lower. We do have this box trade set up. We'd expect to see 10 period turn back up as Stochastics is already leading. Harmony Gold, this is what we bought. Turns out to be a good decision because we had 2 nice days higher, and we're about to take out 328, which would give us 344 as our next target, and then 380 as this continues to build somewhat of a cup pattern. We have a shoulder here, a head, and we could build a right shoulder, or we could just continue to push higher. Note RSI looks pretty strong. Stochastics led MACD. IAG, IM Gold, broke below the 30. We had a little crossover here. I'm watching this one, but we do have Stochastics turning back up. So this one could be in a sideways range here and trying to hold these levels here rather than breaking down below 369, 370. Not the best setup, but it's just here as another gold stock that I'm watching. Silver shares, some of those shares are doing quite well. We'll cover those in a minute. Arthur Hill and John Murphy over at stockcharts.com talked about silver shares, Silver Wheaton, and Pan American Silver, which you can see here, looking pretty good. So keep an eye on those stocks as well. And the silver's doing better than gold currently, so we'll watch these as well. Kinross Gold looking pretty good. We've been moving sideways inside of this candle here, but Stochastics has turned back up, and we're expecting to see MACD turn as well. If we can get back above this trend line, that would be a good thing. The crossover was back in June, so we're still bullish here from a descending pattern. If we connect these lows here, we have a breakout of that trend, and we're moving higher. So I'm expecting with the 10 period above the 30 that this will stay bullish as well, along with the other gold stocks. MUX, McEwen Mining, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, as well as last Sunday in the video. And we had an inside day here and a nice candle on Thursday. We pulled back into that with a little Harami spinning top inside day, but I'm expecting this to continue to move higher with Stochastics turning. Newmont yet to break out, but I think this one has a bigger name with more properties, that this particular stock should continue higher in the near future. If we can get back above 2647, 2650, that would signal a breakout and 52-week highs. Note where stochastics is. PVG, Pretium Resources, we talked about this one as well. Nice box trade, moving higher in this ascending wedge pattern. We have a little flag here, and I'm expecting MACD to turn up as stochastics is already leading. Royal Gold looks good, nice flag. This one looks better, nice trend line break, bullish crossover on the 10 and the 30, and looking better. And the last group of stocks, Richmont Mines. This is a cheap stock, obviously, but if it breaks back above this level, we could see 185 possibly in the near future. Note the bullish crossover, a descending channel, change of trend, came down and tested the 30, came back up, and we have stochastics and MACD crossing now. Vista Gold, this is just here just to show you that when the other major miners start to break out, a lot of the cheap pennies and a lot of the Canadian stocks as well are breaking out. I haven't covered any of those yet, but you can keep an eye on those. Now let's take a look at something different. I wanted to point out the fact that these look really good on the Ichimoku charts as well. All right, note that when you have a trend line break here and you have prices move back above the Kumo, we tested here, we got rejected, moved back in the Kumo, and then broke out. This is called a Kumo breakout. Also note that the Kumo has twisted. It changed colors from red to green, which is a good sign. And if we can just get this line here, the green line, the Chiku line, to move higher and break out above Kumo, that would be a very bullish sign. Now switching to Ichimoku view. If you don't know Ichimoku, you can check the video that I posted previously last year. I'll post that right here for you to check out. But basically, all of the gold stocks have broken back above Kumo, which is a Kumo breakout after being very bearish and down below Kumo. We had a Tenkan Kijun-sen cross here, and this is very bullish going to the upside with the Kumo twist that we see here with the Kumo turning from red to green. And we continue down through this ABX, we can see that we had a Tenkan Kijun cross here. That said, we had a bullish break of Kumo. We have Chiku about to emerge above, and that's looking very good, as well as the bullish Kumo twist here. Okay, so you can see all of these stocks that look really good. Same look here. We got down below Kumo, which was bearish, and then we break back above Kumo, which is bullish. So we want to keep an eye on all of these stocks that are just now breaking out. Some of these look even better because they just broke out, they tested the Kumo, and now we're moving higher. But we need to see Chiku move out of Kumo and get back above. Eldorado Gold, you can see where Chiku is here. The stock broke above in June and hasn't looked back yet. But again, the forward PE on Eldorado Gold is a little bit more expensive, or a lot more expensive than the others, ABX and Harmony. Franco-Nevada, same thing you see here. GFI, Gold Corp. Just pointing out that the Kumo all looks very good. Goro, Hecla, Harmony. Note how we broke above Kumo, came down and tested a flat Kumo here, Senkou Span B, which is the top here, the red line. Senkou Span B is above, and then we tested that and moved higher. Now Senkou Span A is above B, so it's a Kumo twist. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch the video that I posted last year. IM Gold, looking pretty good. It could drop down into this area here, so it could see some more weakness that was pointed out here, the 1030 cross, but for the most part, these are all looking very bullish. Silver, same thing. Kinross Gold, broke above Kumo's, look a little tepid here. We have a Kumo twist. We have Chiku, however, is like inside of Kumo, so I expect this one to continue to move sideways until we can see Chiku emerge above the Kumo. McEwen, you can see where it came down and sat right on Kijun-sen. It held as support, and now we're moving higher. Once we get back above Tenkan-sen, it should be smooth sailing to the upside as we have Chiku bouncing around here in the Kumo. Newmont, same thing. PVG, Royal Gold, nice flag. You can see where we are positioning compared to where Kumo is. And the last few charts, RIC, you can see we tried to break out, came back into Kumo, now we broke out of Kumo. And this is a highly speculative stock, but I expect this one to continue to move higher as soon as Chiku gets outside of the Kumo. BGZ, again, penny stock, but it performs pretty much the same as the other gold miners. Broke trend, got above the Kumo, and now we just need to see Chiku emerge above Kumo as well as price action continue to move higher. Okay, so let's run a scan. We'll try the Bollinger Band and see what we come up with. Alright, let's sort these by percent change. We can see Electronic Arts. Cyclicals continue to look good. We have some technology, more cyclicals. These are mostly REITs as we continue to see TNX move lower, as you would expect. As we continue to see downward action in TNX, REITs should continue to perform. Even if TNX continues to move sideways in a range, that should still help and benefit REITs. So let's take a look at our REITs financials here. Mortgage finance, and most of these, all of these are REITs actually. Cyclicals, we have 4, energy 3, financials, we have about 7 or 8. Healthcare, we have a few. Remember, these all did well on HCA news last week. Industrial machinery and a few chemical names as well as computer services. Let's take a look at some of these charts. 10 per page. Aetna continues to break out, a trend here. Breakout, Bollinger Bands expanding. REIT looking good. Autodesk looks like it's going to try to take out 57.59. I don't know if this was earnings last week. You can check that out, but we are above the Kirby. Stochastics continued to wind its way up, and MACD is turning on nice volume the past 2 days, Thursday and Friday. Brookdale Senior Living, this one's been on the Bollinger Band scan repeatedly as it looks good along with the other REITs in the group, breaking above this trend and not too far off of the breakout. So Brookdale Senior Living looks pretty decent. Stochastics moving higher. CF Industry Holdings broke above these levels here, continues to move higher. Bollinger Bands expanding on nice volume. Computer Sciences looking good. Electronic Arts looking pretty good. Breaking above this triple top action here on a short-term basis. Bollinger Bands are expanding and prices are above the Kirby. EOG holding right at the 20-period moving average. Saw some buyers come in at the last minute on Friday. Flextronics, little descending channel pattern there. We'll watch this one. HCP looking really good and aggressive, moving to the upside, outside the upper Bollinger Bands. Look for a little pullback into a candle or down to the 10 period for an entry. Currently it looks bullish, so I don't anticipate it would change and move to the downside anytime soon as these REITs and healthcare names continue to move higher. Healthcare REIT, HCN, Mikey had a look at this one, had a little nice break here, and it's $1.50, $2 above that breakout buy stop that we saw last week. Hewlett Packard looks like it's going to test these recent highs at 35.20. A break above that level would signal new hands are stepping in, and I would anticipate that Hewlett Packard would continue to move higher. If it gets rejected here, I would watch for that as well. But MACD is crossing, so this is looking pretty good. Humana breaking above these highs last week as well. Kate Spade, we had this descending channel. We were watching that for a couple of weeks, and we finally broke higher. And Bollinger Bands should continue to expand as well. Note the Keltner channel is moving higher, so this one should continue. We had a MACD cross. Kinder Morgan, really nice chart breakout last week. We didn't have a position in this one, but it was on a Bollinger Band scan, and anybody that took this, congratulations. This one should continue to move higher. I just continue to keep moving your stops higher below the previous day's low. So on Monday trading, your stop should be down below 37, and you can play it accordingly. Methanex, we pointed this one out last week. If you took it, congratulations, it's breaking higher. I would look at 68, 67 as the next possible area as Bollinger Bands continue to expand. And Keltner channel turned up very aggressively, looking very nice with no Kirby up here to speak of, as we pointed out last week. Piedmont Office Realty Trust, all of these REITs, again, we saw these a couple of weeks ago while they were in this Bollinger Band squeeze. They showed up in unison, and whenever that happens, we tend to focus on REITs quite a bit. We had a number of blog posts pointing out REITs. So if you took this name, congratulations, along with OFC, O, and a bunch of other REITs that did quite well. Retail Opportunity Investment Corp, it's another REIT, looking really good. Bollinger Band's expanding aggressively. Skechers, we pointed this one out over the last few weeks. We were looking for a trendline breakout, and we got that on Thursday. Spirit Airlines breaking out. We noted the other airlines as well that were doing quite well. Thermo Fisher, Mike, you pointed this one out to me on Wednesday. Note that we're above the Kirby on Thermo Fisher, so this could continue to move higher. No Keltner channel is moving sideways, so I would just keep an eye on this. The 200 period movement is moving higher. United Rentals breaking above recent highs, so we should have new hands joining the party here, and this one should continue to move higher as we see increased volume, MACD cross, and stochastics turning back up. U.S. Silica Holdings, we pointed this one out along with some of the high tide flags in the fracking business where they use sand. BCA Antec, this one's doing quite well. We saw this a couple of weeks ago. It turned up on the Bollinger Band scan and also on the trim tabs float shrink ETF components, and why that's important, where you have stocks that trade on supply and demand versus value. It's a very interesting thesis that when I was on vacation I read a nice article that gives a nice premise why the particular strategy is actually outperforming the S&P by a considerable amount, where basically companies buy back their shares with excess funds that they have on the balance sheet, and they buy back their own shares, and thus limiting the amount of supply that's out there. So that's going to do it for me for the weekend. I just wanted to point out a few things I'm looking at for the week ahead. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com. Be sure and come and check out the videos that I have here for new traders. And again, as I always say, I hope this helps. We'll see you next week on Monday. Take care.